28th of May, we're moving on, 2019. Just a slight change around in proceedings here, as we have a lot of visitors pertaining to item 5.5. We'll bring that forward to go in front of 5.1. Are we transmitting there, Mrs. Nian? We are? Okay, so just for members of the public out there and on the internet, 5.5, item 5.5 will be going to the first of the policy and decision making. All right, number one, Councillor Kingy, do you mind giving us a blessing for the day, thanks. Thank you very much, Councillor Kingy. Item 1, apologies. I don't think there are any. A full house around the table. Item 2, is there any conflicts of interest pertaining to the items today? No? No? No one else? No conflicts of interest. Right, item 3, confirmation of the minutes, 3.1 of the Ordinary Council meeting on the 30th of April. Any points of clarification of those minutes? No, that being the case, could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Boddy, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Item 4.1, the Ordinary Mangakino Pauakani Representative Group meeting on the 19th of March. Do we have a points of clarification of those minutes? No, could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Truman, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Just 4.2. Sorry,
the Mangakino minutes.
Yes.
How's the disc golf going?
It's going really well. It's really hugely popular. Yep.
Yeah, I believe one started up in Inglewood and Taranaki, so it seems to be a good decision from council.
Cool. Just to remind the councillors to speak up nice and loudly, so we can hear down the back. That'd be good. 4.3, 4.2, Ordinary Turangi Tongariro Community Board minutes on the 9th of April. Do I have any points of clarification? No. Can I have moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 4.3, Ordinary Fences, Roading, Reserves and Dogs Committee meeting on the 16th of April. Any points of clarification? Councillor Hickling.
Not a point of clarification, Your Worship. It's just to draw Council's attention to the Wharawaka Road proposal for a pedestrian island from the Somerset across Wharawaka Road.
Yes.
That particular project is on hold at the moment, pending further investigation.
Okay.
So just like to bring that to the attention of the other councillors, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Hickling.
I'm pleased to move those minutes are correct.
Correct record. Thank you very much, Councillor Hickling. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. Clarification, Councillor Boddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 4.9 in regards to this traffic control. One of the things we looked at, Councillor Hickling has just updated us. But during that meeting, I questioned the ability to put a zebra crossing on that particular piece of road. And the assistant asset manager transportation advised that a zebra crossing would not be appropriate in this particular location. Now, I believe traffic counters have been put out there. Can I just have it from the asset manager why that zebra crossing may not be suitable for that particular piece of road?
Okay.
So I think through Your Worship,
Mr. Green.
if we can, I think that is a better conversation to be had. The project is on hold at the moment, and part of the thinking is that we'll bring it back to that committee for reconsideration. So we're just getting some more information, which will include the points that you've just raised.
If that's the case, then I'd like to put before council so it's documented. I believe that particular the particular regulation that you had to have traffic and pedestrian counts. In 2009, the NZTA's pedestrian planning guide stated, among other things, it would consider a wider range of options to help them choose the best one for the circumstances based on a better understanding of the likely effects on safety and delay to all users. For example, justifying putting a zebra crossing somewhere, even if pedestrian numbers don't justify it, because it's deemed a hazardous place to cross for, say, elderly and children pedestrians. We might decide to put the zebra crossing on a raised platform for additional safety. What I'm trying to get at, those rules are not in concrete, and that was the reason a zebra crossing for Spa Road was turned down. I'd like that to be taken into consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Body. Okay, those minutes have been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 4.4, ordinary Kinloch representative group meeting on the 2nd of May. Any points of clarification on the Kinloch group? No? Moved by Councillor Jollins, thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 4.5, ordinary Taupo Airport Authority Committee meeting on the 13th of May. Any points of clarification on those minutes? No. Could I have a mover, please, for that? Thank you, Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Jollins. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 4.6, ordinary Turangi Tongariro Community Board meeting on the 14th of May. Any points of clarification on those minutes? No. Moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Right, 5.5. Future options for the Taupo market. We have Nathan. Lovely. Mr. Murray and Mr. Giles. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Afternoon, Mayor. Councillors.
I think I need one. I think they can only have 3 on at a time. Yeah, thank you. Just like to introduce this report. Hopefully you've read through it and you're all aware the reasons why we're here. The main one being that the current licence expires at the end of this year, and Council thinks that the market is a good, vibrant opportunity. A good, vibrant opportunity for the district, and we'd like the council to give us some direction on a way forward to procure an operator for the market moving forward once the current licence expires.
Mr. Giles, did you want to add anything to that? Event manager?
No, I think just to make reference, notice Mr. Toms's comments at the start of today, and just reflecting on what Nathan has said. Today's discussion is around procurement of a licence moving forward. The parameters of any lease agreement moving forward obviously would be picked up in a process, whatever that process is moving forward. So while there's been some comments made around the specifics around the operation of a market, at this stage our request as officers is around the procurement of that licence and how we proceed on that.
Okay, so when it comes to the exclusion of vehicles on the domain, the Sedgway combination, the car boot sale, the tender process, that sort of thing will all be discussed at that time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, questions, councillors? Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you. And it's going back a few years, but back to 2013, when the original licence to occupy was given, was that done as a expression of interest or the more formal process?
I wasn't here at the time. I'm looking in the general direction of Councillor Hickling, who I'm assuming was intimately involved. My understanding was that someone approached us and there was a process that we went through to see if it was appropriate. It wasn't, council didn't go out, someone came to us.
That is correct, and they came twice.
Okay, leave that one up. All right, questions. Councillor Williamson.
Sorry. Obviously, the council in the past, recent past, have recommended or suggesting Northcroft Domain as the venue for the market. Obviously, in the agenda item, this still does suggest that council is open to proposals from interested parties who may wish to operate on different sites. So that is still something that can be considered, obviously, depending. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to preclude anybody with some really good ideas or some fantastic operating things that they'd like to bring here. We're open to any and all suggestions. It's yeah, we just want to spread the net wide and get as many good ideas as we can and pick the best one, the one that's best for our town.
Okay, so, oh, sorry, you wish.
Yes.
So probably with the process here, obviously the first thing I guess is to, I guess we go to the options first as to what option we prefer in terms of option 3, for example, which will obviously I would support personally, and then we obviously do we decide that first, then we decide what process we want to go from there. Have we decided that first?
Do that. I'm sure all unanimous around the table that we would like a market.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big part of the community, yeah, that's for sure. And I don't think
Well, I'm
anyone's
prepared to move
voiced
that
an
option,
opinion.
recommendation, option 3.
Yeah,
First.
I think, Your Worship, what Councillor Williamson is saying is, are we just clear that it's external operator, individual, rather than council operated?
Okay.
Because then that sends you down a certain
Yeah.
path.
Sure. All right. So are we clear about that? Having an external operator.
So that is included in the recommendation number 1,
Yeah.
that council approves the process to procure an external operator.
So, okay. Would you like to come a bit forward, sir? Have someone there? Okay. We'll just check the technique. All right. Okay, so we've got a suggested recommendation there. I think number 1 answers your question there, Councillor Williamson, correct? Yeah, sure. Okay, I suppose the location is the next one on the agenda. Are we happy with the suggestion that Northcroft Domain is the preferred location? But I think what Councillor Williamson alluded to before, if someone else comes up with a better suggestion or whatever through the tendering process, we will be open to that.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Your Worship.
Yep.
That
Okay.
was what I was trying to say.
Your Worship, I think we need to have an open mind.
Yes.
We're going out to the public to put in a suggestion
Yes.
of how they perceive the market should be ran,
Yep.
and their opinion of where it should operate from. I agree that we probably should perhaps highlight the fact that we would prefer the Northcroft Street Reserve, so that they've got some guidance, I suppose.
Some guidance.
But
Yep.
I wouldn't like to go out and not accept alternatives if it comes out of the
Process.
process.
Yep.
So,
Good. All right. That's 1 and 2. Number 3, that officers will bring back the most suitable request for proposal to council, or the Fences Roading Dogs Reserves Committee at a future date.
And
Correct?
And just going on from that, Your Worship, I would prefer an expression of interest sooner than a tender process. That'd be my opinion.
Right, we'll just go back to our officer of the year. Is that a showstopper, that one?
No, we're completely open.
Yep.
The pretty much 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. The request for proposal was just the marginally more recommended by a procurement specialist, in terms of that it is a little bit of a clearer process and could perhaps set the time frame a little bit closer. But the expression of interest, we can certainly deal with that just as easily.
Yeah, 3. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Williamson?
Your Worship, so I sort of support, notwithstanding Nathan's comments, I appreciate that. I do support Barry, Councillor Hickling's view expression of interest in the first instance.
Councillor Jollins?
Through the chair, thank you. Just Councillor, sorry Barry, not thinking straight today.
Quickly.
Can you please just articulate why you prefer an expression of interest to the more formal process that's in the paper?
Well, expression of interest is probably just, well, I'll start with a tender process. As Mr. Tom said, he needs to present to council financials. They need to know what we're going to charge for a rent. We've not even made that decision. We're going out to the general public of an expression of interest, which means that, well, I think it means that they'll come up with a suggestion of how they see a market operating in Taupo without any financials attached to it. They could probably even put a suggestion of their lease rental, fine. But I think there's a little bit more freedom in an expression of interest than a license or a tender process, which is really, if we accept that one tender, we accept that one tender. Expression of interest, we could probably, when the report comes to council, we might have 3 options, and then it would be up to the council to perhaps pick that preferred option.
Thank you, Councillor Kling. Yep. Councillor Harvey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everyone for coming along today too, just to support this. We certainly do support the whole concept. I just want to clarify 3, where it says officers will bring back the most suitable requests to the council or the Fences, Roading, Reserves and Dogs Committee. Are we doing one or the other or both? How do we handle that?
For me, I would like to see all the options presented to either council or the Fencing and Roading and Dog Committee.
Certainly don't have a problem with that. Councillor Body.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, sorry, just before you, Councillor Body, so the other question there, Councillor Harvey, was whether it should come to full council or the Fred committee. Yeah, I believe because the subject is quite topical.
Optional. Yeah.
Council. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I could clarify, I
Yeah.
think it would be good for your committee to maybe ascertain the best 3 or 4 proposals, and then the full council would consider that from your recommendations.
Yep. Makes sense. Councillor Body. Sorry.
I think
Just a moment. Sorry, Councillor Body.
So the only caution I'll have there is that we are up against it in terms of time,
Right.
and particularly with the end of December. So if you do that, you're an extra month essentially or more waiting for Fred to then make a recommendation to council. So
Yeah.
my preference would be that it's brought to council, which at least then we know that it's on that. If you want you all to make the decision.
Yep.
So my recommendation would be on for recommendation 3 that you amend it to say that officers will bring back the requests, because I hear that's not most suitable, the request to council at a future date for consideration.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Green. Councillor Body.
Thank you. In relation to Councillor Hickling's comments about costs, I think in November, and it's in the agenda papers, if I can see it here now, the rental valuation was $43,000 for Northcote Domain and $30,000 per annum for Upper Riverside. So is that a figure that we give out to anyone that's interested in doing the markets particularly on the domain? Secondly, as we say, time is of the essence. However, there's a program here on the agenda paper, page 90, which I believe is the way it should go. And basically, the staff prepare, June the 14th, they release. This is the RFP. And July the 2nd, Fred, and it's blank, should meet. Now, the reason I believe it should go through Fred, that is a committee that's specifically set up to deal with issues such as this. And it's, I think, was it Councillor Harvey made the comment that then, as has happened in the past, comes back to a full council to agree or disagree with the decision of Fred. And I believe that time frame is quite good because it should be terminated by the 24th of September.
Yeah, but the minutes of the Fred committee are still got to be, the suggested recommendations still got to be confirmed, so there's still another time frame, but you've got, yeah, the time frame's shorter than probably normal, but is that doubling up though?
Well,
Councillor Hickling?
As
You are the
chairman,
chair of that committee.
as chairman of the FRED committee, I know that we've got delegated authority in terms of the licence to occupy, but I've got no problem with it coming to full council, Your Worship. Everybody's involved then. So it is an issue that, that there's a lot of interest in, and there is only 4-5 councillors on the FRED committee, so I'll probably look forward to it coming to full council, purely because it's probably better to do that.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I've discussed this with Mr. Hickling in the past. The recent council meeting, I think we had one issue to deal with at a FRED meeting that didn't take place because there was one, then ended up with 3 items on that next council agenda. That committee was set up to do a particular piece of work, and whether there's 1 or 10 items, that committee of council should deal with it. Then, as per the rules, goes to the full council. Otherwise, we might as well scrap the FRED committee and all the information the 5 of us on that have, dealing with dogs and reserves. So I would certainly be against it coming straight out to council.
Cool. All right.
Just in response to that, Your Worship, this is only one item that will come to full council. The FRED committee deal with multiple items: trees, dogs, roading, all sorts of manner of things. So I still think there'll probably be enough items on the FRED agenda on the 2nd of June, and probably even where it is the 3rd of September for the FRED committee to deal with.
Okay, Councillor Park.
Just as a member of FRED, I'd just like to support our chair, Councillor Hickling. I was aware, well, we are aware that the scope of this and the working party that have done a lot of, have invested a lot of time in this aren't on the FRED committee, so I think it's only fair that it comes to full council, and it is an amazing opportunity for Taupo, and we need to look after it the best that we can.
Your Worship.
Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Worship. I tend to support Anna and Barry. It's a one-off, well, it's a one-off, it's a wider interest to the community. So I think it's quite prudent to come to full council in this instance. Besides, I'll be at the cricket in July the 2nd of England, so I won't be at the FRED committee meeting.
So you might not have a quorum, Mr. Chair. All right. Okay. There's recommendations there: 1, 2, and amended 3. That the officers will bring back suitable requests for proposal to council. Are you correct? Oh, sorry, I'm reading. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so the amended resolution there. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Harvey.
Your Worship, before you do, I'd like to see a time frame for that action to take place, because on the agenda item at the moment, it would appear on July the 2nd to the FRED committee meeting, not later than that. So I'd just like to see a program that we all know what we're going to have to work with, particularly those that have expressions of interest, or whatever you like to call them. And that should be considered today as part of this resolution.
Timeline. So what do you suggest?
I just, in terms of your resolution, I believe that you were wanting expressions of interest, not requests for proposal.
Yes.
So would you like to change the recommendation? We will bring back the expressions of interest to council.
Yeah. Yeah. There's number 1 there. No.
Sorry, I was looking at number 3.
Yeah. So what are you talking about, Councillor Boddy? A timeline of what? Sorry?
Well, Mr. Murray has now said we're going to report back because it was expressions of interest to council officers. When will that happen? So what's the deadline for expressions of interest to come into this office?
Essentially, we will look at the same time frame. We'll just change RFP to EOI.
So, in fact, my argument's quite correct then, in regards to the time frame on this agenda.
So how long is it that they have expressed once it's advertised?
So once we've gone out with all of the information, we would still look at 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
So it would be an impossibility to get to July 2nd, FRED. We would prefer to go to FRED, but with the end of the triennium coming up, as the Chief Executive has said, we've only got 6 meetings and we've only got 2 FREDs, and we can only go to one of those FREDs.
So just to clarify, when...
So it'll come to the 30th of July
30th
to
of
the
July.
full council.
Good. Full council meeting on the 30th of July.
Yep.
Correct. Correct. Okay. All right, it's been moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Harvey. Does anyone want to speak against the resolution? No? All right. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item number 5.1, tender contract for the TDC 1819/266 System Integration Services for Water Infrastructure. Mr. Kevin Sears. Good afternoon, Kevin. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, councillors and Mayor. Hopefully this is fairly straightforward, but the system integration services contract is for...
Sorry. Sorry?
Like all of us here come on a region to support the market,
Yes.
don't get a say.
Correct,
So
yeah.
is there a way that we can put some input into it? I
Um,
don't know how all the procedure goes.
Yeah, understanding orders we have certain, criteria. So certainly if anyone applied to speak, like Mr. Thomas did to the public forum,
So how do I go about that?
send us an email if you like, when the subject comes up again, as you've heard, the 31st July.
Yes, we can come and submit because, I mean, as you can see,
Okay,
there's a lot of people here to support the market.
Yeah, and the
people
beauty
that
about
are
it
doing
is,
it too.
the beauty about it is that we all support it too, so it's fantastic, it's a win-win situation, so.
I would like to be involved.
Yeah.
So I'll send you a note and you
Are
can
you-
reply and tell me how to go about it.
Registration of interest, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll need to see Mr. Murray on that, because he's asking for registrations of interest.
Small group of people that have supported the market. These are copies which are already sent to Joe.
Yes.
I leave a pie here, there's over 80 people that emailed me in support of the market.
Cool.
Just leave this here if you're interested.
Lovely. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Kevin. Just carry on, I think. Yeah.
So the system integration services contract is all about our telemetry SCADA computer control for the water and wastewater treatment plants. So this has been out to contract before. It's had a 3-year term, so we re-went to the market and have gone through a procurement process and have put forward CR Automation as our preferred supplier of system integration services. And the value there at 1.98 million is a combination of OPEX maintenance of what we've currently got, renewals for renewing some of the older SCADA systems or telemetry systems, and upgrade work from projects that are coming up, so water treatment and wastewater treatment upgrade projects that require the SCADA system integration.
Lovely. Thank you, Kevin. Any questions of Kevin? Councillor Park.
Yeah, just thank you. Just being pedantic maybe, but it says the project was estimated between 1.8 and 2.2. So, and obviously this, it doesn't say, this must come into budget because it doesn't say it doesn't, but what was the budget for it? I mean, you talk about renewals and OPEX, but 1.8 to 2.4, there's 400,000 in there. I'm just trying to understand that.
It's not an easy one to have it's not a, what I'm saying, it's not a defined project, so it crosses over many different schemes and many different projects. So it's really an estimation of multiple values across all those projects and schemes to come up with that estimated value.
Okay,
So,
just based on that, then how can, so that then goes on, financial considerations are estimated to be 1.9, but this is, the total value is 1.98. So you're quite comfortable that there's enough contingency in there for that? Because, I mean, estimated versus total value.
yeah,
It's a bit worrying.
the way the RFP was put out was actually on an hourly rate, effectively, but it's the estimation part of it is our estimation of how much maintenance is likely to be needed, and that's sometimes sometimes that can be more than expected or less than expected. It's just based on what we've typically done in the last 3 years of the contract that we've had, and then the estimated project values for the upgrade work. So yes, it's not an exact figure from that point of view, but it's our best, the best that we can calculate based on what we've done.
Sorry, this is probably finance dummies 101, but so the estimate is exactly the same as the tender contract price you're accepting. What I'm worried about, if you're talking about an estimate and the total value has come in at the same price, are we comfortable with the contingency in that it's not going to end up going over budget and you're going to have to come back for unbudgeted monies?
So it's a good estimate. Oh, yeah, you bang on, Kevin.
Yeah, yeah. I'm reasonably comfortable. I know that's not an absolute answer for you, but it's like that with any of my budgets. It's the best we can calculate based on our experience and of what's happened in previous years and what we think is going to happen. So, yeah, it's not exact. As I say, I'm reasonably comfortable that it can be achieved within that, but I couldn't guarantee it. But then that's for us to control those projects and do our best to keep it within that.
Yes, the difference on this one compared to most procurement processes, you're not going out and buying a thing or even a service. It's about something which is kind of unknown, so it becomes an operational management type tool, and then Kevin and the team then identify when we start. If there are things that mean that we're starting to get to the end of that, then it's about no surprises, early warnings, and then putting measures in place either to change things, the way that we do things, or worst case scenario, bringing something back up to get more cash. So it's a management tool rather than buying a set of something.
And you're comfortable, Kevin, this CR automation are the right people for the job?
Yes,
Yeah.
They came out through the process as the top ranked system integrator. There was one other that was very close to it, but as I've said in the report,
Wellington.
CRs, the other one was based in Wellington, CRs are based in Napier, so they're very close to be able to get somebody on site if we need somebody urgently.
Right. Cool. All right. Thank you very much. Councillor Harvey.
Just to clarify along the lines of what Anna was saying, my understanding is a tender is a tender and that's the price that you would pay. So are you saying that if it's more, they can charge more? And if it's less, they still charge the same? Or are we having to accept it if it goes over? Because I thought a tender was what they said they'd do. No? I got that wrong?
Well, it's not quite, is it?
No, this was not a tender as such. It was an RFP, a request for proposal, and it was based around an hourly rate. So while it could go over, we do have the ability to also restrict the work that we give. So if the overall budget or cost was getting up around that figure, and we still had a project or some work that needed doing, we could elect to hold back on that. Whereas a tender with a specified schedule of works, you're bound to actually provide that amount of work.
Yeah. So through the chair, just to provide some confidence to elected members, that's the price that we have there. If we're getting close to that or going, we will not go over that without coming back for unbudgeted expenditure.
I guess that's our point.
Through the chair, I totally accept a tender as a tender and agree with that. Again, if you're buying a specific thing with a scope of work, so you're saying we want you to do A, B, C and D, in this case it's not, it's about maintenance, and it's about maintenance we don't actually know of. So if you were to go out for a fixed cost contract, a tender such as that, I would guarantee you that price wouldn't be 2 million, it would be it'd be a exponential growth on that by a case of hundreds of percentage, because the contractor likewise would not know what's going to come up, so they would build that into their costs. So ultimately the ratepayer would spend a whole lot more. So this is akin to going out and getting a professional services contract on an hourly rate, and you get charged what you give them, but it's saying this is our preferred supplier for that particular task. So it's really up to us to manage that through the term of the contract to ensure that we come in within that budget, or as I say, if we don't, then change what we do, or it would be in the case of an emergency situation basically that we would have to then come back to you.
So should that resolution be to the council accepts the contract price instead of the tender for the contract?
It's probably a better way of wording it. Hindsight, maybe we should have put the word tender in there.
We're just being pedantic today.
Body?
Just on that matter, I think in the past, in fact, I made the suggestion that we have contingencies written in, but listening to what Mr. Green's saying, if you put something out like we're doing here, it's for maintenance during that particular period of time. And that's as much money as they use to do that maintenance during that period of time, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether the pipe's going to break end or not. So I can understand that, but yeah, it's I think it's just the way it's worded. And just also on the agenda paper, it's made comment about, where are we here? Tender price was based on blah, blah, blah. The other submitters' prices were not viewed. Why was that?
That's the procurement process that we went through. So we had five, I think there was five submitters. We went through a process of evaluating them without looking at prices, and we selected the top two, and then from there we took the pricing into that. So I think my understanding, Kevin, you may be able to help me on this, that's our procurement process for ensuring that we don't just base our decisions on price, that we're getting the best contractor and conforming price through.
So therefore, the two that missed out may have been higher price or couldn't perform to the standards that you had set?
They were eliminated because they weren't conforming with our other criteria, as in capability and other things.
Now, my next question is, which Councillor Truman will like me for, what was the reason that the company from Mangakino was turned down? Were they in one of those two that didn't get the look in?
Yes, they were.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right.
I just had one question through the chair.
Earning your money today, Kevin.
Yeah, you are. I just had a quick question for you. This is a significant cost to council. Just in your own words, what's the benefit of what we're doing? If you had to explain it to someone very quickly.
Yep. I can do that pretty easily. Without our telemetry systems, we could not operate our water and wastewater treatment plants with the staff that we've got. We would probably need a team 3 times the size. It is our ability to be able to remotely view and control the sites, and it's essential to us.
So what you're saying, this expenditure will allow significant operational efficiencies in the long run?
So through the chair, just to add to that, is compliance as well.
It is. Yeah.
Very, very good answer. All right, there's a suggested amended resolution. It's not the first time today we've changed the word tender too, might add. So you picked a topical subject, but thank you very much, Kevin, and good questions from the councillors. All right, suggested recommendation there. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Right, 5.2. Oh,
that's me again.
Oh, sorry. Right, waste, sludge cartage. Okay, sounds exciting.
Okay, this one is a tender. So the sludge cartage is something that we've done for many years from the wastewater treatment plants, carting the liquid sludge back to the Taupo plant and dewatering it on site. We became aware of technology that was mobile dewatering units. And so when we put this out to the market, we put it out as an RFP for either cartage of liquid sludge as we currently do, or for dewatering on site. As it says in there, we received three submitters and prices for doing that. One being the current state, cartage of liquid sludge. One, a mixture of dewatering on some of the sites and carting some liquid sludge, and the other one was full dewatering. We went through the process and have come up with site care as the option that is fully dewatering at all the plants, and they and their price sat in the middle. So it was slightly more expensive than the just carting liquid sludge, but there's a lot of efficiencies that we save. So by not carting that sludge back to the Taupo plant, we will download that plant, which is fairly well loaded from a solids point of view. And we also won't have to run the dewatering system and the polymer chemicals that we had as much there as what we have been. So there's some efficiencies there. The other thing with it is it also significantly reduces the truck movements on the road. And so I know the Kinloch residents in particular, the amount of truck movements in and out of the plant there was an issue. And this will basically reduce it by about 80%. So one truck movement for every five currently. Happy worms, yes.
So the dewatering thing, there's no issues with that, using water or whatever.
It's basically a containerised unit, fully sealed, so there shouldn't be any odour issues.
Right.
And it's sheet membranes effectively inside the container, so they pump the liquid in, and it just filters through the liquid filters through the membranes, drains out the bottom, goes back into the treatment plant, and then when it's dewatered suitably, they pick it up on a skip bin truck and cart it to the worm
So
farm.
we've got that plant ready to go now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so we don't have to...
No, they when they submitted, we gave them the opportunity to come and talk to us about their proposal. They actually brought their machinery in and gave us the opportunity to have a look at it and see what it was like, and so that gave us a lot of confidence in what they were supplying. No, there's no noise at all. There's no mechanical parts apart from when they're pumping the sludge into the dewatering unit, and that would only happen during normal work hours.
So going back to tender, Hydrocare has been a long time supplier to us.
Yes.
So they couldn't offer that system?
They were the ones that offered a part solution, or not a part solution, but a part dewatering part carting of the liquid. So their proposal was similar in some ways for the dewatering. The unit was similar, but they didn't have them on site. They didn't have any available. They were going to construct them if we'd given them the tender, which brought in some doubt into our mind as to whether they would be ready to go on the start of the contract, and we weren't. That was untested from their point of view, whereas SiteCare actually have had these units and have tested them, and able to guarantee us that it will produce the dewatered sludge that we need.
I'm just aware of the human resources regarding Hydrocare, not that we take that into tendering, whether there's a possible conversation with the successful tenderer, whether they could take some of their staff.
That has already happened.
So you're a good man. Yep.
That's been working with Hydrocare.
I'm just thinking about a very hard-working former councillor.
Yes. No, he's going to be taken up by SiteCare if we award this contract.
Great. Okay. I just didn't see that in the report, that's all. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Kevin, any questions? Councillor Body.
A couple of questions. There's no contingency written into this tender?
No, there's not. They've offered a fixed price, what they've termed a fixed price tender. So it's a fixed price for each year or for each month of the year, up to a set volume, which is double what we currently do from a volume. So they're saying they will, for that price, they will dewater up to twice as much as we're currently doing.
Okay, so effectively the dewatering keeps the trucks off the road.
Yes.
What happens to the dewatered water?
That's returned to the treatment plant, back into the head of
That
the
goes
works.
out into the field or wherever it
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Is that price?
So it's that divided by 6 per
Yeah, okay.
Through the chair, I'm
Yep.
happy to move this. I'm all for anything that's taking trucks off roads and reducing our carbon footprint, and so it's a good way forward.
Okay, so just clarifying the CEO, the 2,393,000 is over the 6 years.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right. Very, very good. Thank you, Kevin. Been moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. 5.3, Spa Road and Kaimanara Street. 40k speed limit sign. Clear. 73.
Afternoon, everybody. We have, since we've written this agenda item, we've actually got a new recommendation to put forward. There was originally we had 8:20 to 9:10 in the morning session, which was to cover the starting time on a Wednesday. But we did have some concerns of the lights running for 20 minutes when there were no children. The school had actually started. So for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, if we had the original recommendation of finishing at 9:10, there'd be 20 minutes of the 40k signs flashing when the school was actually in. Since then, we've talked to the software operators that can actually change the software for the times, and they can actually just run a Wednesday, which would cover the 9:10 a.m. start. And also the school have actually finish at 3:10, not 3 o'clock, and so we've changed the afternoon times to 3:10 to 3:30 because they'd prefer to have the 20 minutes once the school bell goes off.
You've
Bit
completed
confusing?
it. Yeah. I was just going to say, does it take inclusive of the strike action? Does it? Anyway, is everyone clear? Oh, we get it. I'm glad.
Just
Yep.
a bit slow. So is it on the Wednesday the system has the ability to change the time? Is that what you were saying? You mentioned Wednesday.
Through the chair, the software will have it written in there that on a Wednesday it would run from 8, whatever it is, to
Just
to
on that one day,
9:10.
so, okay. So that's the only day?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'm just looking at 3:15. When's that? Sorry. Because they get out at 3:10.
That's the current operating time.
Okay, yeah.
The new time will be 3:10 because they've actually
Thank you.
changed
Sorry.
their timetable
Right.
slightly.
Yep. It changes from
Let's bring it in line with what the school's
currently to become. Okay, yeah. Read it properly, David, yeah. All right, thank you very much, Claire. Very, very good subject brought to us today. And I'm sure that makes sense. You've got offspring at the school, Roseanne. You happy with that?
Did you have a question
Sorry,
first?
Councillor Harvey.
I actually just want to ask something about the previous subject we've talked about in Spa Road and the crossing.
Yes. Yeah, where did we get to on that?
I don't know.
Are we digressing there? Sorry.
I know we are, but I wanted to get it in.
Yeah.
Through the chair, we're currently consulting with the affected parties. We've proposing a refuge island close to the intersection of Spa Road and Oranui. And so we're consulting at the moment, and then we'll be coming back through council or Fred to actually approve that.
Because of the loss of car parks. Because we're going to lose quite a few. How many car parks?
Off the top of my head, I think it was about 2 or 3 car parking spaces. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Correct.
If that consultation could take place till after the election, it'd be very, very good.
Look, through the chair, my understanding from Claire, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this matter, is when you have a crossing, you've got to check the pedestrian count, because if you don't have enough pedestrians crossing the crossing on a regular basis, cars begin not to see the crossing, and it's actually counterintuitive and more dangerous, which is why you were looking at the island. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. Thank you very much.
And I'll second that one, Your Worship.
Okay, we moved and seconded. Thank you, Claire. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Right. 5.4, e-scooter proposals for Taupo. And we have...
I think...
Oh, that's you, Claire, too? Yep.
Yes,
Cool.
and before I start, I
Acknowledge the applicants here this afternoon.
I've got Dave Wakeland and Michael Opperman to answer any technical questions, because that is
Sure.
not my expertise. So,
Okay. No problem. We'll call on them if we need them.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Right. Claire.
So basically, Glide e-scooters came and did a workshop a couple of months ago, and they provided a proposal for a 6-month trial to use the Glide scooters in the Taupo CBD and out on the Great Lake Walkway. In discussions, we have actually changed it to an 8-month trial, which will cover some of the summer months and when we have our peak summer visitors, and which should be good for business opportunity, but will also give us an opportunity to see how the community and how the e-scooters actually mix and mingle with people, other pedestrians on the footpaths. So that's why we've changed it from the original proposal to an 8-month trial. The 8-month trial would begin mid-July and run through to March next year. So that will give us an opportunity to gauge what the community actually think and feel. We have also been approached by some other e-scooter operators, but I think we'd like to hold off on doing any other applications until we've completed this trial and evaluated it. Otherwise we could have too many issues with other operators and scooters, and we're not actually getting a good idea of how e-scooters are going to be managed. So we're going to work with the Glide scooters to develop a memo of understanding. Hamilton City and Auckland City Council have actually developed a code of practice, if you like, so sort of operating procedures and what you can do, what you can't do, what speed, where you can have them. Because we don't actually have a policy or a bylaw in place, we think if we set up a memo of understanding with some rules and regulations that we put forward, and also develop a code of practice or something along the lines in collaboration with Glide scooters, and then when we get other applications or applicants coming forward, we have got a code of practice that we've developed with part of this trial.
Yeah, through the chair.
Councillor Jollins.
Look, Claire, I think this is an awesome idea, and I think in terms of vibrancy for our CBD, I'm really excited to see the trial happen. I just had one question, and that was in terms of the speed, because in the CBD area you had a reduced speed down, I think it was to about 10k. How do we enforce that, or is that good manners? How's that going to work?
Well, Dave and Mike will probably be able to. As I understand it, the app that they have, it has a geofence, and as soon as you go into that geofence,
she slows down.
It slows down, or you can't go any faster than what they've actually set.
Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Right, Councillor Park. Sorry, Barry. Councillor Park.
Just some reassurance during the workshop. It was around when people have finished using the scooters that they just can't be left anywhere they want to be on the footpaths. That they have to actually be returned to certain areas and docked. Is that correct?
Those areas will be quite frequent, won't they? They won't be.
Yes, they will be frequent.
Councillor Hickling?
So I'm too concerned about the speed. So
Do you want to come up, Michael,
you
if like?
actually
Just
tell
just
us-
so our external visitors on the internet will be able to hear, that's all. If you could talk into one of these red mics.
I understand that you can control the speed. My concern is particularly in the CBD, you've got a range from 10 to 28 kilometres an hour.
No, in the CBD we have it set to no more than 12. We had
Okay,
initially
and
thought 10 could be a bit dangerous because you're a little bit wobbly.
Okay,
But 12 and no more.
So in the CBD, you are going to control them at 12 kilometres an hour.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harvey?
Look, I also think it's a great idea, but having been in Auckland, nearly run over by several of them and someone falling off, it wasn't me. Yes, how would you control them being put back in the right place? Because they do just get, how do you do that?
In
because
Auckland,
they
that-
get dropped everywhere and people
Yep.
trip over them and...
So to activate the scooter, you need to unlock it with an app. And if you do not lock it again, you keep paying. You can't just leave it where we've said you can't park it. It'll be clearly noted on the app, no parking here, and it won't let you lock the scooter.
I bet they start putting it back in the right place then. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Not clear? Or
Just
Michael,
one
wanna
last one for me. There's an age limit on these, aren't there?
Correct, there's, yes. Was it 18, Luke? 18, yes.
18 years of
18
age.
to 99.
That's all right. I was just working out if my kids could use it to get home from school.
They can only go as far as there, though.
They do need to wear helmets. It's not compulsory, but we will be recommending that everybody does. And we are looking at a way how we can leave helmets around in certain stores where somebody wants a helmet near where they are parked, pay a $5 deposit, get a helmet, and when they return the helmet. No, I'm afraid not.
All right.
Your Worship,
Very good. Councillor Hickling?
Look, I'm quite pleased with this application purely because it's a local operator. I would like to think that we would support that local operator sooner than expand it out, because Claire's just said there's been other inquiries. We've got our first one off the block, and I'd like to think that we would support that and not perhaps open it up any further.
Well, trial will take place if we remove this. Yeah, did you get any suggestions on the actual logoing there, Michael?
We're still working on that. We're
Still
just
working on that.
Wait till today's meeting, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Lovely. Yes, Councillor Body?
Yeah, thank you. I also support this. As Councillor Hickling said, it's a local operation. There are a number of points I'd like to discuss. I notice you've got a 12 midnight cut-off in summer. I believe that should be the same as bike hire, maybe 10 o'clock for a number of reasons. I'm concerned about the impact. If I look at your map, you're going up Nukaha, which is Norman Smith Street. The conflict with cars coming out of blind driveways. The speed, which everyone has mentioned, I believe shouldn't be higher than 10k. But it's also interesting in the options where it states here, minimal impact on council staff during this period responding to complaints. And then when we turn to financial considerations, it says it's estimated to be nil. Now, to respond to a complaint as a cost to council, which hasn't been factored in, I'm also a little bit concerned, where have I got down here, the numbers, not so much a concern. How many people do you believe that you'll be employed in this operation?
Well, it's going to be trial and error for us. We believe 5 originally, and just grow from there.
Okay. I would also point out one of my portfolios is the elderly, and we are an age-friendly district. So I'd just like to refer back, and if you give me a bit of time so I can actually find where the hell it is. It's to do with, oh, here we go. Significance of the proposal. It states here whether the proposal decision will affect a large portion of the community or community of interest, and I believe it would. And then we go down to whether the community interest is high. That hasn't been tested. Now, as I say, I represent one part of the population of our district, and particularly in this small environment where you've got them in the centre of part of Taupo Township itself, what insurance will you carry in regard to damage to property or persons?
We will have our own insurance.
And what, were you going to have public liability,
Public
what, a couple of
liability.
million or 5 million or?
Still dealing with the insurance company, but they've thought a couple of million.
Okay.
So through the chair, that will also be form part of the licence, so that's not one of the normal considerations. I guess the other thing just to point is we have got the benefit of a whole lot of surveys and information from around the country and in fact internationally as well where these scooters go in. What that tells us is that regardless of which town or city they go into, it essentially becomes a 50-50 thing. There are people that love them and there are people that hate them. One of the reasons that in this case we're looking at the trial is just to flush out that sort of stuff and whether there's any operational things that need to be taken into account to bring it more in line with a Taupo situation. So that's the real advantage of working with this provider, is that they can do that through the app-based system that they've got. So this becomes essentially the consultation process. It's an 8-month consultation process, and the onus is really on the operator to get it right, because otherwise they know that when they come back to you, you'll be having those things in the forefront of your mind for the next phase.
Thank you for that. But we also, and I've got down here, it's 8 months. I said I'd like 6, but I'll buy 8. In regards, if it becomes a disaster in month 1, do we have the ability to pull out of the process? And I want to repeat again, if you go around the streets and look at some of our footpaths, just work out what goes on them now. It's not only scooters, it's post office vehicles, it's skateboards, it's people in wheelchairs, it's people in those mobility scooters. That's my long-term concern. I like the concept, I like what you're doing, but I have some grave fears for the group that I represent that may be greatly disadvantaged.
And we would definitely, if there seems to be a problem daily in a particular street in the CBD, we can block out the entire CBD. I'm not saying that it has to be part of our plan. There are many areas people can still use them without having to go into the CBD.
Yeah, I guess the benefit of starting the trial now is it'll go slow because it's winter, and that will help get some learnings. I'd just be interested, if we are of a mind to approve it, that we just get an update every couple of months to see how things are going for you.
Definitely.
Councillor Park.
Just a comment, sorry. I just think it's actually really good timing. We're at a phase in our transportation strategy going forward about all the different modes of transport and walking and whatnot, and what different carriers of vehicles and things look like. So I think it actually feeds in really good timing.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Claire. Suggested recommendation there. 1, 2 and 3.
I'm happy to
Moved by Councillor Jollins, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 5.6, public art. Sorry. Yeah, 5 point. Yes,
okay,
sorry.
I'm just standing in for Jess. So the issue here, I'll take the paper as read. The issue here is that site was always a temporary site. So that sculpture was put in 2015. It's now been nearly 4 years since it was installed. There's a desire to purchase it. What we're after here is making that a permanent site. That I can't remember how many we've got left. I don't think we've got that many left that council's resolved on. So that's the issue here. We're asking whether or not you'd agree to that being a permanent site for that sculpture.
Yes, sorry. What is it? Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay.
So it's on the water treatment plant on the right hand side.
Yes,
I think. Yeah.
Is it still to be painted? Oh, that's all. Sorry about that. I've had, since my medical procedure, I think something's happened. Anyway, so you're asking for it to be permanently there?
A permanent site, yeah.
Yeah. And the Sculpture Trust has asked that, have they?
Yeah. Yep.
Barry? Sorry, Councillor Hickling?
Yep. I'd propose I'd like to pass the resolution. You wish to make it a permanent site.
Right. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rankin.
I'm like you. I'm looking for a coat of paint as well. What I thought when I started getting involved, that particular site was we had one, I think, or was it 2 that had a period of time, then it was replaced with something else, so it gave a change to the look of that particular area. If the trust wants to buy it, have we got a more suitable place? Because that was the advantage that I saw of having a variety of artworks on that platform. And I believe the most photographed place in Taupo is that Love Taupo sign. So I don't want to vote against it, but I'm going to vote against it from the fact that I believe we should have... I'm part Irish. I'd like to see something new there. That's basically it.
But there is another side on the treatment, top of the treatment plant. There's 2 sides.
That's
isn't
correct.
it?
Yeah.
So that one's still vacant.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Well, why don't we just shift this? No, we won't. Why do we have 2 new ones?
Is
well,
the other
we've got
side?
one that is real iconic. That one at the moment.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. A lot of people take photographs there. And whilst I'm like David, I don't necessarily like the rusty look, but that's what it is.
There's another sculpture though at the other end of the water treatment plant, isn't it? The big totem pole. Someone told me that was actually something else, but I better not mention that. No, seriously, that sculpture is... I'm serious about that. I got a letter saying that needed to be investigated. But anyway, that's another subject. But so that's the other site you're talking about, Barry? Yes. Yeah. 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 Okay. Right. Was it moved? I'm pretty sure it was moved by you, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor Ackling. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Right. Yeah. Bit of 50-50. Right. 5.5, just to for the internet viewers, was moved forward to the start of the meeting. So hopefully you all heard that. So 5.7 is the Council's April performance report.
So through Mr Chairman, I won't keep you because obviously we're late in the day and we've been through this. It's been a busy month and we've got a whole lot more to come with obviously the long-term plan amendments all next week. And basically I'll hand over to Alan to go through the details.
Thank you, Alan.
Yes, through the Chair, it's a continuation of the last couple of months where the level of activity has been such that we are seeing an ongoing increase in our fee revenue from activities like regulatory and our venues, etc. The other side of the coin is that we have to resource those particular facilities to maintain the level of service that we want to do. So you'll see some pluses and minuses, but we're still looking at a favourable variance for the year, pretty much in line with budget. One of the other aspects is that we're still keeping our net debt position under control. As you can see, the net borrowings there are at 15, and with a bit of luck, that's about where we'll end up for the year. The other positive is, for the first time for a while, our investment performance is such that the total return on the TL fund is now higher than what was budgeted for at 3.91% versus 3.75%. It's been a challenge, especially with the OCR low. We've been ahead as far as the cash position is concerned, but it's good to see that we're ahead now on our total investment books. But apart from that, it's pretty much business as usual. It's a challenge. We won't dwell on the changes to the budget this year because of decisions made, but yeah, we're tracking, and we should come out at the end of the year holding our heads up.
Thanks very much, Alan. Any questions of Alan? Okay, democracy and planning.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Really not much change from last month in relation to democracy and planning, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Community services. Brian?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, councillors. Really, pretty much in line with what's been said before, business as usual. Still high workloads in the regulatory area, as you've heard. A couple of things I just want to highlight for you. One is that in our health area, food safety, we have MPI auditors here today. So they're assessing our quality assurance program and also the competencies of those who carry them out. So the team's a little bit nervous about that, but we'll see what that brings out, and that'll be reported back to audit and risk going forward. In the civil defence area, I recently attended a presentation from the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet from policy advisors on proposed changes to the Civil Defence Act. That will more than likely have implications for local councils. Some of the things they are looking at include, let me just get to my notes, making it clear who's responsible for what. There were certain concerns over some of the events of recent times about who was actually running the show. Also about the governance of civil defence locally and regionally, strengthening the joint committee. As you know, Councillor Park represents council on that committee. A big concern is the ability of iwi to participate in this space. So there's a lot of work going on in that, even regionally at the moment. But certainly it's an initiative, concern for the government, at the moment. Probably the biggest thing for us locally is the professionalisation of our staff in this space. In terms of controllers, recovery managers and welfare managers. We will have to spend some money, and we are spending money on upskilling our people. The transition for that's going to be painful in terms of this sector. There are people who are leaving it because of this. And another regional group not so far away, 50% of the recovery managers' positions are vacant. It's a difficult discussion going forward, and costs are one of those factors as well as responsibilities. Really just a heads up, there's lots happening in that space. Thank you, Brian. Probably that's all from me.
Probably just to add to Brian, just as a heads up to councillors and the public, at the next Emergency Management Committee, Unison Networks are coming in to talk about the power outage that happened some months ago. So if you're interested in that, it would be an interesting conversation to hear.
Thank you, Brian. Community facilities.
Community facilities, Your Worship, tēnā tātou. Just a couple of points here. You'll see that we continue to have a few issues, particularly around our grants and the funds that we source from outside of council. So we have grants for Hipapatua and a few things that throws the timings out. So you'll see on that front page there, it does talk about those. You'll see the Great Lake Walkway upgrade that we heard from Fraser in the workshop is also now replaced or to Maheke. And so you'll see there's a number of projects, particularly around erosion and some of the work that we're doing in the CBD. Obviously, we've got the last of the upgrades going through its tender process. The Hydroslide and the Event Centre are working through those two projects. And as well as that, we also have some work that's going on in Turangi around the mana whakahono and the impact it's having on some of our projects that we've planned, namely around the playgrounds and the parks and reserve space.
Thank you, John. But when is that Hydroslide finished?
The plan is to have it finished before the school holidays, the July school holidays.
Cool. All right. Councillor Body?
So the one that's got the leaky roof, it's got down here, May weather dependent work to commence on the deck 20th of May by Flooring First. Is that the company that's doing it?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay,
and they have started.
And when do they expect to be finished? Because we've got a number of ladies to go to Zumba would like to get back.
I'm not too sure on that. I can get back to you in terms of the planned time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're doing the Zumba down in the main part though? Pretty sure.
They were operating the roof where the leaks were coming.
Right, yeah, but they've gone out into the hall, I think. Anyway, sorry.
What?
Well, could you ring the ladies from Zumba? And
I'll ask Councillor Body for those numbers, Your Worship. Happy to.
It'll take ages to get them out.
all right, water. Kevin.
Okay, through the chair, just for the CBD upgrades that was just covered off, we went out to tender. We only received one tender, so we've gone out again. So it's just, it's a symptom of the market at the moment. Everyone's busy, so there'll be a slight delay in the start of construction on that one. So water, really the only thing I want to add is Waitau Nui, the water supply was turned on. There was a little bit of fear of the increased pressure for those that haven't been on a public water supply before. We're not aware of any complaints, so which is quite positive.
Have we had additional connections to that supply? Because initially there was only sort of 30, 32.
I can't remember the actual numbers. Maybe Gareth can help me out because Michael gave us the
68%.
numbers.
We're at almost 70% at 68, 69. It's about 68%. It's over 65% of the available connections have hooked up. So it's Michael tells me it's above what we estimated originally.
Yeah.
And I think that figure was like nearly a couple of weeks ago. So Michael's getting a few calls. Yeah.
And the timeline for 5 Mile Bay, sorry, John. Timeline for 5 Mile Bay? Next year.
I think so, yeah.
Cool. Councillor Body?
Could have just mentioned the figures that's been given. I received an email which we ordered 23rd of May, I think from Mr. Lewis, or maybe it was Michael, where it states nearly 60% of the residents so far. So when I went back to early 2016, there were 68 properties said they would connect. As of the 19th of the night, 77 applications for new connections have been received. As at the 27th of February this year, the new connects were 113. What I'm trying to get is there was 37 on that existing scheme. How many more have actually joined? Now, what's 60%? Nearly 60%. So total of possible not in current scheme, 193 or 59%. We seem to be getting different figures because if you remember, a number of those residents out there said they didn't want to get involved, and we're still getting them free connections. So what's the exact number?
Yeah, so in light of the information changing daily almost, I'll get Michael to write something up, we'll flick something around, and it'll be the actual figures that we've got. We can include the existing connections of 37 odd, and then we'll exclude those.
Well, the
as well.
37
So
we know are paying. It's
we
what's
know,
not paying but are connected.
Yep, so we'll
Thank you.
Just an
we'll list it all
update,
out.
because they're hooking up each day, aren't they? So, Cool. Transport?
So I'll take transport as read. I think I only had a couple of comments here. Mapara Road, the TFAR, so there's no money available as of Friday. Gareth sent through an email to us. So we're looking at other ways of getting money for that and reprioritising that work. We were hoping that we'd get some money for that.
Okay, so it's probably worthwhile just dwelling on that for a second. It's been quite disappointing. The NZTA and the change of their priorities has meant that we've missed out on a fair bit of money that we were expecting and would have previously. It's not just us. All other councils, I think, are in the same boat, particularly my colleagues in the Waikato and the Bay are talking the same way and obviously very disappointed, particularly in some of those growth councils. There's some major projects which are now having to go off the radar to deal with growth. So it's a symptom of the change due to the GPS, due to the government's policy statement for roading, but it is disappointing for communities that have planned these projects for a long time based on the fact that they were going to get funded, and that was the discussions that we'd had to that point, only to have that change now.
Just through the chair to add to that, when we were told at Regional Council that this was going to happen, there was a lot of discussed in the room about it. A lot of projects were hinging on this TFAR funding, and it's one of two projects that I know of that so now could possibly not go ahead because of central government pulling the funding except for certain safe road projects. So yeah, really, really disappointing for Taupo.
Councillor Body?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where are we with the velodrome? The resurfacing of the velodrome?
Yeah, velodrome, yeah. So through the chair, the velodrome has been resurfaced. We've had some difficulties with how smooth it is, and particularly down on what they call the race line. We've had one of the general managers of Downers down here to have a look at it. He agrees with us, and they're sourcing some special equipment, which is some infrared pads that come in a reasonable size, so they're a couple of metres by a couple of metres to get into it, to actually reheat the surface, but much better than what the normal ways that they do that. And have another crack at that. So they're pretty confident that they can get that within spec. Currently, it's not within spec.
The reason I raised them, Mr. Chairman, about a month or more ago, I called in on there as I was out at Rakanui Road, knowing it was finished. And when I had a look at it, I thought, you almost slipped walking because of the pebbles. About 2 weeks later, I was also out at Rakanui Road, came back and met a guy called Alan Jones, who I think wrote to you as well. So it's nice to hear that his letter may or his complaints may have been uplifted and something's going to be done. So where do we come for the extra costing as it wasn't completed to standard?
So through the chair, this will be at the contractor's cost.
Thank you.
Yes, and they're fully aware of that, and we were aware of this as that complaint come in. So
Good,
yeah.
thank you.
Wastewater? Oh. Roads?
Just regarding the new ceiling in Poihipi Road, have we sorted that out? Because it wasn't very good.
So through the chair,
You know,
yeah,
not even.
So Dennis can add to it if he needs to, but basically we were out on site after those complaints. There was a whole heap of them over a couple of days. We went out on site, and actually, to credit to the contractor, they had already identified that through the process, and they were actually fixing them up the day we were out there. So at the end of the day, the worst of the ruts are fixed up. They will manage to chip those out. It's not until we get the second coat chip seal, which is in another season. We were always going to do that. That would cover it off and do that to the best standard. Yeah.
So it's still to be finished, basically.
It's basically finished. Yes.
Who are the con?
Schick.
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 No,
Councillor Collins?
slip of the tongues there.
So yes, so just to clarify, for Poihipi, when you say sealing next year, are we talking early next year or?
It's a second coat chip seal, so whenever we do that, Dennis.
Sometime between November and February.
So this.
Sure. I guess just a point I want to make, and something we need to think about is how we communicate to the communities about some of this work that we're doing, because for many people they saw the white lines going on and they thought it's finished, and it wasn't. So I'm not quite sure how we answer that, but I think we just need to think about that a bit more, because we have certain levels of expectation. The speed goes up, and then we get the comments that we have.
Yeah. So yeah, we're certainly aware of that, and practice makes perfect. So we're doing Tarahonga Road now, so hopefully we'll learn.
But are people still expecting a response on that Poihipi Road situation? Is it worth doing a press release now on that? Yeah. So
Okay.
Lisa, you know the road we're talking about, eh?
Travels it every day.
But you did right, Roseanne. You know, like putting the lines down, think it was finished, and oh, hang on, yeah. So there was a lot of confusion out there, hence the social media commentary. So no, thanks, Kevin. Transportation, we've talked about the bus, the green bus that goes around town.
Yeah.
Covered that. We've moved
good.
on pretty quickly from that. And was there nothing else? Wastewater.
Wastewater. No, I'll just take that as read. I think I had no particular comments on that.
Could I just ask the current issue, is that Turangi wastewater disposal or Taupo's? It's got Taupo
Which one?
wastewater.
Yep, we've got a couple here. We've got Kinloch, and then we've got Turangi, and then we've got Waitanui. So none of them are Taupo.
Well, on page, where the hell are we? 125. It's got here status, current issues, Taupo wastewater land disposal. Just wondering if that's supposed to be Turangi. It's right where your circle is with your red.
Yeah, so that's the current issue. So that's an issue with loading up there, and we're working our way through that.
Taupo.
At Taupo,
Oh,
yes.
Thank you.
So, I suppose the only thing to mention here is we had a meeting, and there were some elected members there with Tūranga Tukua yesterday on the mitigation agreement for the wastewater treatment plant in Turangi. I thought that meeting was very successful. And it's something that in the budgets that we've got here, it's $2.2 million. That's why we're holding off on about 1.8 million of that is around remediation of a pond there. And we're waiting on these discussions to go further before we do any work on that.
Right, solid waste.
I'm going to take solid waste and stormwater as read, and if there's any
Stormwater
questions,
as read.
have
Yep.
a ask them.
Economic development, John.
Yeah, so you'll have seen the announcement on the summer concert, which is, I imagine that those tickets will go quite quickly. The other thing I just want to mention is some of you will be aware that Mike Groom, the airport manager, retired. He officially retires on the 30th of this month. As an interim measure, Kim Gard has been appointed the temporary airport manager until we go through a bit of look and see as to how we operate out there. Okay, so.
Okay. Will we arrange for the appropriate function for Mike? Is he going to have morning tea or something? Or?
Through the chair, Your Worship, we've already had
You've had something.
a morning tea, and I think what it sort of hit home for me that day is that Mike Groom's put 12 years of his life into that airport, and I think it was a little bit of a sad occasion.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Nationwide, he's very well regarded, well known too. Yeah, so...
So we've just done a media release, so there's a media release going out today on that. And you bang on, when I went down to the CAA about 3 weeks ago, I just hadn't realised how well connected he was.
Yes.
So it'd be quite nice maybe if you could
I'll
maybe drop
definitely
him
send a letter, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Send something anyway. Yep. Yeah, cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Appreciate the hard work and all your managers here this afternoon. So, suggested a recommendation that we receive the report. Could I have a move, please? Thank you, Councillor Jolland, seconded by Councillor Kling. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 5.8, election protocols for elected members 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I apologise because we've got one lot of figures with the front of the agenda, some towards the back. Just a question for Alan Manhattan, if he's still here. It's to do with what we can do with the TEL fund. If you'll remember, was it 2 or 3 years ago, we decided to have a community fund funded from the TEL fund. And when reading the document just recently, it states here, to secure the investment and to meet the liquidity requirements of the fund, investments are limited to bank call and term deposits, but we're investing the TEL fund in equity. So I'm just wondering if there's a reason for that.
Through the chair, what Council Body's referring to is the TL Community Fund, and that was one that we workshopped before Christmas, and I left it open to councillors to come back to me with any changes. There have been none, so the initial proposal was that $1 million of the TL earnings be set aside as the basis for the funding of the initial funding of the TL Community Fund, and then each year the surplus up and above the inflated earnings of the fund be added to that community fund. In the current year, because of the funds that were used to assist in the Waiora House position, there won't be any surplus available for this year, but that $1 million was solely to be invested in term deposits. Had nothing to do with the investment strategy of the TL fund as a whole.
No, it's only to do with that, up to that $1 million.
That's only to do with that, the TL Community Fund, full stop.
Thank you.
But through the chair and Councillor Body's comment, it's probably quite timely for us to remember that we still need to craft at a governance or strategic level what we're going to spend that money on, what our policy is around that community fund.
Correct.
All right, 5.8. Tina.
Thank you. This has been workshopped previously, and really it's just here for the formal adoption of the protocol.
Okay. Thank you, Tina. I have a mover, please. Thank you. Moved by Councillor John, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carried. 5.9, council engagements.
So there's one to add in there for the 13th, and that's the Waiora House workshop, hopefully from 1:30.
Yep.
And then we've got the local government New Zealand annual general meeting.
Oh, in Wellington.
Yes.
Yeah, and someone needs to go to the meeting because I can't get there on the Sunday. I Can't get there on the Sunday, so. All right.
I'll be there for the meeting, but I do need a councillor with me for that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So.
And point 3, which is in relation to the World Championships Ironman.
Oh, right. Yep. So I'll get Mr. Green to talk to that. Who wants to go to the Wellington conference?
Just through the chair, I've been before,
Yeah.
so, and I did go last year, so probably not my turn, but if there were a lack of, I understand the couple of councillors away during July, so if there weren't enough people to go, I'd like to go, particularly around the localism, fresh water and climate change. And I'm intending to stand again, so it's not like it's a hurrah for me, it's serious.
So just to guide the conversation, we have, unfortunately, the early bird tickets for the conference had to be purchased before this meeting, but we have put, I think it's three places aside, so there is the opportunity there for 3 councillors at that rate.
Councillor Rankin? Yep.
Through the chair, I just need to double check my diary, but could you put me down too?
Check my diary, I'll be in Tuscany, sorry.
Doesn't rub me that in.
There's no cricket pitches there. Anyone else like to come, Kirsty? Yeah. Okay, so 4, does that matter?
That's 3 in the mayor. That's what we've paid for already.
Yeah, okay,
we could pay for more if you wish, but that's what we've already put aside. Yeah. It's not Tuscany, obviously. It's Wellington.
All right. Okay, so Councillor Park, Rankin, and Jollins. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, as I say, we haven't put names to those, but yeah. Anyway, and Roseanne, you're okay to go?
Sorry, through the chair, I just need to check with Tina. I've got my RMA chair accreditation. Possibly that week, I'll just double check. So
Okay, so we'll double check. If you can't, Kirsty is a alternate. Yep.
So we put that in the resolution to make it easier.
Yep.
And then the other one I'll just quickly speak to is point 3 there, which is approval for either His Worship or the Deputy Mayor to attend the 70.3 World Championships in France. You'll remember that is a requirement of the contract that that occur. Essentially, it's to there's 2 elements to it. One is the ceremonial side to get the handover for our year, and then the second one is they like to have the host city there for the next year to be able to pick up learnings, etc., for how we are going to go about hosting our event in 2020.
Just through the chair, just with the sport and rec hat on, if you can't go and you can't go, can I go? No, I was just going to say, during sitting in those conversations with Ironman,
some culture in that.
when we were coming to an agreement about our bid for this was definitely alluded to, as was the Kona trip last year, and the coverage and feedback from being in attendance at Kona was huge. So I'm definitely in support of this.
Got to say, the work and the benefits of this is just starting to start now. So as of essentially, well, about now actually, every 70.3 and in fact Ironman around the world starts to play Taupo New Zealand footage. So we've arranged video footage. We've arranged a gift for each potential candidate or competitor. So Taupo's starting to get known internationally as of pretty much now.
I did converse with the CEO regarding this, and we haven't talked to Lisa about it yet, but on the bottom of our letterheads and emails and all that sort of thing, I believe we should start very shortly. Taupo District, the home of the 70.3 World Ironman, just so we take full advantage of that external profile. So every communication that goes out, I've even suggested vehicles, but there's obviously a cost to that, so we'll just
The other point, the other point, just to note, just out of interest, is that the year after us has been announced now, and that's in, I think it's Utah, United States. So the mayor was sending a letter to the mayor, sent a letter to the mayor there, congratulating them and looking forward to hosting them in 2020 as well.
Just on that point, is this funded by 70.3 or funded by council?
So it's funded by the flights are funded by council essentially. So it's the project budget for the 70.3, which as you know is a specific budget. The costs on ground, so transfers, hotels, etc., is funded by Ironman.
Okay. Now, have we arranged the fare structure for His Worship or the Deputy Mayor in regards of classes of flight?
So your adopted policy is anything over 5 hours is able to be travelled business class. I understand that that the mayor, if it is him that travels, is elected not to travel business class but rather premium economy.
And I'd also suggest, I'm not miserable, I'd also suggest that well, I had an office in Paris and I flew it in a French, so maybe I should go. I was going to say something, bugger it. What I was going to say, I suggest that whoever goes a couple of days before the event, because that's almost like flying business class, so I would accept that.
Just through the chair, and just in terms of 2020, and I guess this question is to Gareth and the team, could we have a project update on where you are in your critical path and planning for that at some stage, please?
Sure. So, yep, we can definitely do that. We had obviously a workshop this morning on one of the key projects, but for the entirety, we can bring that back to another workshop.
Cool. But that's a good idea. Would it be a future agenda item, as we get a bit closer to the time?
I think probably workshops, just the amount of work that goes into an agenda item is something that we can take around appreciate. So a workshop, at least we can come and have the conversation.
Yeah, because we will start to get questions from the public, and if we're all on the same page and the same answers out, it'll certainly help. Yeah.
But I think I'm more about where we are in terms of our project planning for it. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities that we can
We had the workshop this morning, unfortunately, so we covered all that off,
So that's definitely
just the path.
That's definitely workshop material, and happy to do that, and we can do that on a regular basis as required as we move forward. We do, I just heard the conversation about media releases. We are doing media releases when we can, but obviously Ironman have their own. We're working with Ironman. They have their own criteria. They don't want us going out too publicly right now at the moment when they are trying to promote France.
Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Got the meeting dates here. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Members' reports. 5.10. If anyone's got any tabled reports, set forward, or any quick verbal reports. Councillor Williamson.
Your Worship, yes. A few of us had a delightful, enlightening meeting with about 40 young college students at Rotary House regarding around the climate change. Well, wasn't really, it was that day of the strike, they weren't actually, they were very engaging and very supportive. It was Christine, Anna, Kirsty, myself and Roseanne and Maggie were able to make it. So yeah, that was very, very, very well received. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Certainly good to see the dialogue going both ways on that. All right. Thank you very much. So we'll move that the members' reports be received. Moved Councillor John, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So that's the finish of the public part. So we have our close down now.